Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about Ben & Jerry's, the progressive-led ice cream company from Vermont, who keeps trying to get woke in order to pander to liberals and get their SJW virtue dollars. Previously we talked about their custom-made anti-Trump ice cream flavor called Pecan Resist, which came out last year. Here's a picture of me trying the ice cream myself. And while it tasted nice, it did not feel great that I was giving my money to SJW assholes like Ben & Jerry. And I really thought it was weird how that picture on the ice cream, it showed some brown people on it who were supposed to be resisting Trump because he's some kind of racist or some shit. Completely false and based on a lie, but as you'll soon see, this is nothing new for Ben & Jerry's. Next, just a few weeks ago, Ben & Jerry's got woke again when they started tweeting about how there's way more blacks and browns in jail right now when compared to white people in America. But instead of reaching the more rational and factual conclusion that they're in prison more because they commit more crimes, well, no. Ben & Jerry's decided to make the wild and common SJW assumption that minorities are going to prison more because of racism, and they reached this conclusion without any proof or evidence of said racism. We're supposed to take their word for it on this unproven assumption, but you know what? We do have proof for something. We have proof from the cops, lawyers, judges, and juries who saw the proof that these minorities committed crimes. And that's why they were sentenced to prison in the first place. Needless to say, there's no racism. There's no countrywide conspiracy on why this is happening. And that brings us to today's story too, which is also related to the crime and prison sentencings. Earlier this week, Ben & Jerry's decided to be a total buzzkill on 420 of all days. For those who don't know, 420 is an unofficial holiday for pot smokers across the globe. In this sense, the 4 stands for April, the 4th month of the year, and 20 is the date, the 20th of the month. So every year on 420, smokers unite, get stoned, and just have a little fun with their cannabis pastime. And in another sense, 420 can also mean 4:20 p.m., a time of day which is popular with potheads, and it's their chosen time to spark up. It's the perfect time of day, it's like not too early, not too late, and it makes for a great time to get stoned. I know from experience. And actually, many claim this 420 smoking time is where the term originated from in the first place. According to Urban Dictionary, in 1971, 5 high school students in California would meet up at a local statue at 420 every day to smoke nearby. This led to them calling their plan 420 Lewis, Lewis being the name of the statue. And eventually, over time, many others began using this term across the country, and now it's used all over the world. And this is what led to April 20th, 420, becoming a semi-holiday for stoners. And also, it's what brought us to this new round of SJW craziness from the ice cream company Ben & Jerry's, who are trying to get woke once again. Here's the tweet that started this whole story. On Saturday, 420, Ben & Jerry's tweeted this: "It's hard to celebrate 420 when so many people of color are still being arrested for pot. We have to do better, learn more." What a load of bullshit. And I really can't stand how Ben & Jerry's always tries to pander to the so-called people of color. For the record, I hope everyone knows that Ben & Jerry's is run by a couple of old white dudes who are Jewish. Nothing wrong with being an old white dude either, but when you constantly try and stand up for people of color like this, it just comes off as cringy and embarrassing. It's so awkward. It's like they think minorities are little children they need to care for. Needless to say, it's patronizing, and quite frankly, this overt pandering comes across as a bit racist itself to me. Think about it. They're clearly not treating black and brown people as equals. If they were, they wouldn't be trying to get them out of prison for all the crimes they committed. Now it's focused on pot crimes specifically, but last time, as I said before, it was all crimes in general, including murder, rape, and all kinds of messed up stuff. So yeah, the overarching message of Ben & Jerry's is that minorities should not go to prison when they break the law, as if they are incapable of understanding the law or something. And does that sound like a familiar way other sorts of people are treated in our country? Well, that's because this is exactly how the justice system would treat children or the mentally handicapped or insane. Those groups too get special treatment because they arguably deserve it. And according to Ben & Jerry's, minorities in America should be treated the same way as children and the mentally unstable. What a joke. And that's why, in my opinion, no matter what skin color you have, you should be treated the same way by cops in courtrooms. Because, I'm not a progressive racist trying to pander to blacks and browns. Next, let me go on the record and say this: marijuana should not be illegal anymore, not in the United States. And I recognize that going to jail for it currently, in current year, is completely ridiculous too. The laws on that can't change quick enough if you ask me, but until they do, you still have to follow the law of the land. So let's not try and use that as some kind of excuse for these minorities getting arrested arrested more for weed. Because just like with other crimes, the reason they are getting arrested more is because they are breaking the law more. Or at the very least, you have to admit they're certainly getting caught more. And that brings me to another point on this. This might be a bit anecdotal or maybe even offensive, but I have heard this from many others too. You see, it's pretty much a fact that black people get caught smoking weed more because they are more flagrant and in your face about it. While on the flip side, white people, when they get high, they're very sneaky and hiding it better. They'll smoke in their garage or out in the woods or something, far away from people. While at the same time, blacks tend to smoke big blunts right on the street, in public parks, or while driving around in busy parts of town. Basically, they're not as good at hiding it as some. And while some more clever people will smoke out of a water bong and then blow that out into a filter, followed by spraying cologne on themselves and chewing gum to mask all the smells, well, while some might do that, others might smoke a big stinky blunt in public, around the corner from the courthouse or a police station. That, and then, after smoking something more stinky, they don't bother to cover up the smell at all, going into work or school or a public place, not only high out of their minds, but also smelling like a skunk. I think you get the point. A lot of the reasons minorities are getting caught more has nothing to do with racism. Really, it's more about when, how, and where they smoke, and if they have enough common sense to cover up the smells of it, or to even use something like eye drops to clear your red eyes. That'll make you look less stoned. Stuff like that makes a much bigger difference than this whole Ben & Jerry's everything is racist theory, which implies that these people are getting arrested because of unproven racism. Next, let's take a look at the video Ben & Jerry's attached to their tweet. Check this bullshit out. I'm not sure I agree with you on that though. Both of these points you presented have no inherent issues with them. Whites make more money off illegal cannabis because they are the ones starting businesses related to that product. No real issue there. Just because an industry happens to have more of one demographic working in it doesn't mean there's some kind of inherent racist problem. I know you're implying this happened because of racism, but again, you provided no proof of that at all. Time and time again, SJWs like Ben & Jerry's will point to a disparity like this and pretend there's a problem, when really there isn't. Really, the only problem is these kinds of progressives want good things to happen to blacks and browns, and bad things to happen to whites, in turn. So when they see whites succeed in an industry like legal cannabis, they think that's a bad thing. And also, like with their next point, when they see something bad happen to minorities, like more blacks going to prison, SJWs say that's bad too, even though those people going to jail deserve it, because they committed crimes, were caught, and had their day in court and everything too. If you don't believe me on this obvious bias already, think about it like this for a minute. Have you ever heard an SJW complain about things like this in the inverse? Like, for example, say there was an industry dominated by blacks, like, let's say, the National Basketball Association. That's a basketball league that's dominated by black men. Now, is that because of racism? Should we insert more whites in there to make things even and fair? Because I doubt any left-wing SJW would agree to that at all. And next, let's look at other crimes besides pot-related ones. White-collar crimes, for example, like fraud or embezzlement, they tend to arrest more whites for these types of violations. Now, do you think Ben & Jerry's would say, hey, that's too many white people being arrested for embezzlement? Because I think we all know they would never do that in a million years. And all these examples are a great way to prove how hypocritical and stupid Ben & Jerry's is. Okay, I'm going to try to be fair here again. Ben & Jerry's does have a pretty decent idea here at the end. Like I said before, I don't think pot should be illegal anywhere. But at the same time, if it is, you have to follow your area's law. Same goes for other silly laws like, say, what if there was a law saying you can't wear yellow t-shirts in Montana or something like that? Now I know that sounds stupid, but it doesn't matter how ridiculous the law is or how much you love yellow shirts. If you're in a place that makes them illegal, like Montana in this example, well, if you wear them, you better be ready to face the consequences. And hey, you always have the option to move to another state that allows the ridiculous crime you don't like where you are. But regardless, I will admit here that expunging people's cannabis convictions now could be a legitimate idea. I would have no problem with letting a few people out of jail if they were there solely for smoking pot. But the way Ben & Jerry's got to this conclusion, this okay idea, is completely embarrassing for them. Even this statement right before the expunging suggestion is absolutely ridiculous. Legalization is not leaving people of color behind, you moron. morons. Laws are laws, and they work the same for all the people in the area, no matter what demographic you were in. Now, if Ben & Jerry's has some proof that there's foul play here, by all means, present that evidence, but just pointing out the fact that blacks get arrested more for pot isn't going to cut it at all. That doesn't prove there's racism or mistreatment here. All it shows is that blacks are getting caught smoking weed more. End of story. Lastly, let's click the link that Ben & Jerry's attached to their initial tweet. It leads you to a page on their website titled, "This 420, let's be blunt about justice." Not a bad pun, but I think our justice system is not as racist as Ben & Jerry's is implying here. Let's go ahead and read more of what they got to say though. Anyway, happy 420 everyone. Now that pot is legal in 33 states and counting, it's a pretty heady moment for stoner culture. Fans of cannabis can celebrate 420 openly and in style in more places than ever before. And even if you're not in a state that legalized pot, there's still a pretty good chance that the cops won't hassle you as you spend 420 doing your thing, if you're a white person. Dun dun dun. Sorry to bring you down, but that's the harsh reality. If you love pot and you're white, everything is totally awesome these days. In 2017, 81% of cannabis executives are white. Meanwhile, even in states where pot is legal, and even though black people and white people use pot at similar rates, black people are still arrested way more often than whites. We love 420 and we love legalization, but that's not okay. If you say so, Ben & Jerry's. I've already addressed and debunked most of this extensively, but let's talk about the cops not hassling white people part. This is simply not true. Cops are going to arrest people who commit crimes, regardless of the color of their skin. If the police were really being as racist as Ben & Jerry claims, surely we would have some evidence of that, especially in current year, 2019, when social justice warriors are chomping at the bit to attack the police and call them racist like this, like what Ben & Jerry's is doing. But instead, the only facts they present are arrest statistics. Statistics that the police put out themselves, and of course, these stats are true and don't prove any racism. The truth is, the police are actually more likely to arrest and be harsh with white people now. Or more accurately, they're going to be very extra careful when arresting and detaining people of color. It's because they know racist liberals are after them and trying to say they are racist, so they now have to try even harder to combat that by being careful when they arrest blacks or browns. That's why the cops are all wearing body cams and stuff now too. It's so they can prove without a shadow of a doubt that the police in America, they're not anti-brown or anti-black racists. Really, the reason those groups get arrested more is because they commit more crimes. Plain and simple. What do you guys think? Did Ben & Jerry's ruin 420 this year? Why do you think they keep pushing this SJW garbage? I wonder if it really makes them more money in the long run, because I know me, myself, this shit makes me less likely to buy their products. Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.